This is Omni 1 Entertainment District. This is the virtual world where I cut my teeth role-playing in the mid-2000s. Free-form, player-driven stories about corporate totalitarianism, acts of rebellion, and small-scale intrigue in a cyberpunk world inspired by George Orwell's 1984. Omnitech was always watching its employees, and those that stepped out of line through disobedient acts like running or bleeding were sent to the dreaded Omni Reform Department. This is Oceania 2084, a TTRPG, one for free-form, player-driven stories about corporate totalitarianism, acts of rebellion, and small-scale intrigue in a cyberpunk world inspired by George Orwell's 1984. Big Brother is always watching the players, and those that step out of line through disobedient acts like fact-checking or enjoying coffee will be abducted by the Thought Police. It's not just the thematic similarity I was reminded of while playing this game, but the way it felt to play. But I guess it'd be more useful to tell you more about it. Oceania 2084 is a GM-less, asymmetrical story game where one player acts as Big Brother, trying to catch the others in their rebellion. It's a game of deep character exploration and social role-playing where the tension of constant surveillance and totalitarian control drive the story. It's a game you play to lose. Your character probably won't have a happy ending, unless you're playing as Big Brother, because the conglomerate always wins in the end. This is the surplus edition of Oceania 2084. There are two versions, a free digital text-only version called Austere Edition, and the fancier surplus edition, which you can get in print. It might not come across on camera how absolutely lovely this book is to hold. The cracks you can see are actually tactile and part of the texture of the cover. Even the pages inside have ever so slightly raised text, where the more pigment there is in the colour, the more pronounced the effect. The sections cover the different rules for Resistance and Big Brother players, and procedures for campaigns, all with some really nice graphical design elements. There's a short section that covers some aspects of the setting as well, focusing on the four main conglomerate ministries that might sound familiar: Mini Pax, Mini Plenty, Mini Love, and Mini True. There's even a solo mode in the back, which weirdly I haven't tried out yet. Instead, I wanted to get a feel for the asymmetric group rules for this review. So a huge thank you to the designer of Oceania, Johan, not just for sending me a copy, but for taking the time and effort to arrange a game for me and two other wonderful folks. I'm really grateful to all of them. In the near future, a conglomerate of corporations runs everything. The only wars are resource wars between rival companies, and the only crime is thought crime. You are always being surveilled, whether it's your digital footprint through the virtual world of the universe, the implant that filters your perception of the world through augmented reality, cameras and listening devices, thought police agents disguised as regular civilians, and even your friends and family who have a duty to report any deviations. And yet, something calls you to rebel, if only in some small way. And here is the most accurate depiction of totalitarianism and rebellion I've seen in an RPG. You're not going to bring down the conglomerate, and your story will almost certainly end badly. Your best hope is that instead of being permanently erased from history, you can leave something behind, a small message for future rebels following in your footsteps. Your characters will be grounded and nuanced, not heroic resistance fighters, but ordinary people who've grown up in this world and may not have reason to think that other ways of organising are possible. They probably agree with the conglomerate on a lot of issues. And to represent that, you note on your character sheet which 2 out of 3 conglomerate values you agree with and which one you don't. Those values are unity, reporting thought crime and dissidence, selflessness, always putting the conglomerate before yourself, and groupthink, believing the conglomerate propaganda. You also have an evocative list of personal values in the form of phrases you agree or disagree with. You might notice these values are connected to emotions: anger, sadness, fear, guilt, despair, and apathy. A lot of the mechanical meat of the game comes from the interplay between these emotions and your character's values. You'll set a starting state for these emotion scores in character creation, but they'll swing back and forth as you play. The next step is choosing a class, and we do mean class here. You'll choose between a trusted conglomerate official, a bureaucrat getting on with the day-to-day governance of Oceania, and a prole worker. Each one comes with a level of trust, but an inverse level of stress and scrutiny. The higher up you are, the more closely you're watched, and each class has a list of unique but mundane abilities to choose from, like blame it on a clerical error or destroy something. You'll create some trusted connections, decide on your character's day job, and then what I think is the most important part of this game: creating a deviation from the ideals of the conglomerate, something that motivates your character to rebel. And to give you an idea of how simple yet important that can be, the examples in the book are: I love the sound of birds, I collect art, I'm left-handed, or I long for love. One reason this is so important is that as you build the setting together, your deviations are automatically serious thought crimes, both adding flavour to the world and reinforcing the conglomerate's control over small human experiences. And these small joys become acts of rebellion. This is one of the core features of totalitarianism and one of the main but overlooked themes of 1984. Here's an example from the game I played. I made a prole character, a courier whose deviation was that they try to leave a tag wherever they go, a subtle little mark scratched into a surface with the key of an old motorcycle. So in our version of Oceania, defacing property was a serious thought crime, making every piece of graffiti significant and interesting. Enjoying coffee was a thought crime, leading to these daily rituals of visiting bland coffee dispensers as if it was nothing more than a simple duty to enhance your productivity. But you can't be seen to enjoy it. The cheaper coffee was the most flavourful and the most difficult to hide enjoyment from. Fact-checking was a thought crime too, leading to secretive research sessions and hidden nooks in libraries where like-minded rebels left notes for each other. All these became huge drivers of our story: meetings in coffee shops, researching TV shows, and investigating graffiti. There's a few other aspects to your character sheet, like memories you can invoke to adjust your emotions, hope you can spend to activate class abilities. But of course, there is another kind of character, Big Brother. One of you will play as the artificial intelligence watching over everything and everyone, catching the other players in their thought crimes. To start, you'll decide on a campaign type. This is a super useful feature with frameworks for different kinds of stories and role-playing styles. Personally, I felt like my slice-of-life freeform role-playing was a bit rusty since my MMO days, so I was grateful for the structure and guidance of a Call to Rebellion campaign that focuses on more immediate conflict. A standard session takes place over a day of in-game time, divided up into phases. During each phase, the Resistance characters have a certain number of acts they can commit. There are free acts and class acts, each with their own rules. It's up to the Resistance players to set each scene, and there are rules about which player describes what scenery. For example, if you're playing a Prole character, you're also in charge of describing any Prole Quarter locations that any other character visits. But as long as you're following those small restrictions, you have a lot of freedom as a player to decide what happens in a scene. It's actually a little tough to get the hang of. Personally, whenever I added a detail to a scene, I kept looking to our Big Brother player for permission, forgetting that this is technically a GM-less game, and Big Brother is just another player character operating with a different set of rules. I think probably unless you're very used to this style of play, then your Big Brother player will end up taking on some of those GM duties. But rules as written, Big Brother is just an asymmetric role with their own guidelines. They're in charge of describing high security areas, narrating the morning news broadcast and the 2 minutes hate, and can only interfere with the Resistance characters' scenes by spending suspicion points to add certain details, characters, or events. And the way they gain suspicion points is by catching you in a thought crime. Remember, you're always being observed, so the question isn't so much, does Big Brother see? More, how much suspicion does this generate? No matter how careful you are, you will commit a thought crime. For example, instead of a traditional resolution system, Oceania uses value tests. Anyone can call for a value test at any time whenever something happens that calls one of your values into question. When that happens, you roll to find how well you hide your real emotions. It's a really unique mechanic where you need to roll a d6 either under or over your current emotion score, depending on whether you agree or disagree with that value. I found it a bit tricky to grasp the abstraction at first, but eventually started seeing the roll as a performance, having to display the correct emotions regardless of what you're really feeling. Failure means either selecting an emotional outburst from the list of associated emotions, or taking stress. The more stress you have, the riskier every act becomes. And you can't hide. You're connected to the universe through a device implanted into the base of your skull, showing you the news broadcasts overlaid onto the real world, showing you the 2 minutes hate wherever you are. Suspicion will always build up against you. It's just a question of how fast. At some point, after you've gone through the day cycle and enter the sleep phase, you'll be abducted in the night and interrogated by the thought police. This is a super interesting but relatively simple part of the game, and happens in private between you and Big Brother. If you fail your interrogation and don't prove your loyalty to the conglomerate, your character will be vaporized, immediately removed from the game and from history, their name becoming a banned word. Passing the interrogation is a simple matter of succeeding at tests of your 3 conglomerate values. But succeeding 3 rolls in a row is a lot easier said than done. Chances are fairly high that you'll fail, and when you do, there are a few options remaining. One of them is why the other players leave the room. You can choose to give up another character to escape vaporization, increasing the suspicion on them to save yourself. This might seem like Big Brother has a huge advantage, which is true, of course, but the Resistance players have their own powerful tool against Big Brother: notes. I didn't fully understand notes when I started playing, and it was only when I found one that I felt like I fully understood this game. Here's how they work. At any time, a Resistance character can write and hide a note. This is always a thought crime, and will likely generate some suspicion. But no one, including Big Brother, can see what was written on the note. Later, another Resistance player can find that cache of notes and read one. Whatever was written on it becomes a truth of the world that Big Brother can't contradict. In my case, I discovered a note another player had hidden at least 2 sessions ago in a library, one that I'd nearly forgotten about. All it said was that the library's electronic systems are only updated once a year. It was such a small but profound moment. First, it meant there could be traces of the redacted data we were looking for in the library's database. I could search for it, and Big Brother would have to give me a chance to find it. Second, it was a seed that had been planted, symbolising a story and a relationship, one that paid off later. The character who had secreted the note hoped I would find it, but couldn't tell anyone. And third, it was a record of a person. In this game, your characters have a high chance of being vaporized before the end, erased from memory, and that possibility means that tangible things that you leave behind have huge value. They'll probably end up being the only proof that you existed, and through those notes, your actions now affect player characters in the future, ones your character might not have ever met. You are what you leave behind, and even Big Brother can't destroy every trace. I feel like I learned a lot about Nordic LARP while playing this game. One of the features inspired by that scene is the procedure for de-rolling, slowly letting go of character bleed, like a diver decompressing as they rise to the surface. It's essentially a process of asking each other a mix of questions about both the characters and themselves. And something that really stuck with me during that process was a question about whether or not we were playing too close to home. I didn't think so. The aesthetics of dystopian fiction separated the game from reality for me. The cyberpunky aspects of the universe and AR overlaying reality through an implant, the light-hearted thought crime of enjoying coffee. I was imagining something like this, something like the video game I used to play. But the others in the group felt that maybe we were straying too close to difficult real-world topics. And in that moment I realised that I do know people for whom thought crime is a reality, who've told me in private how they can't speak out about certain current events for fear of legal consequences. And I know dozens of people who feel the need to hide their minor and otherwise inconsequential deviations from the expected norm. And then later, while I was out at the shops, I found 2 stenciled signs in a sheltered area where I've previously seen rough sleepers getting moved on by corporate security. It said, "This area is being monitored for antisocial behaviour," above a graphic of an all-seeing eye, one very similar to the front cover of Oceania 2084. So I've got something really awkward to say now. I'm terrible at stuff like this, but here goes. Cozy RPG Reviews has been nominated for an Emmy Award for Best Streaming Content. I can't describe how over the moon I was when I heard that. The voting is open now, so if you've enjoyed any of my content over the last year and a bit, please do think about me when you're going through the nominations. There's lots of other fun stuff to vote for too, like the new Best Solo Game category. Thank you so much for being here for that journey. And of course, a huge thank you to all the folks on Patreon and Ko-fi who selected a really cool looking science fantasy game for me to try out called Songs for the Dusk. If you feel eager and able to support the channel in that way and want to join in with audience pick votes, head over to Patreon or ko-fi.com/cozyrpgreviews. And until next time, happy adventures.